Hey, did you see that I was talking at City Hall last night? Hey, folks, it's Kurt with Manana No Mas, and I'm streaming this out to a couple of different channels. So if you are popping in, feel free to put your comments, let me know where you're from, all that fun stuff in there. And if I see the comments come in, I can interact with you, answer your questions, things like that. So I'll get to it. Last night, I was invited to speak at City Hall. It's interesting when you move from California to Kansas, sometimes your role in society changes, I suppose, right? I would never get anybody's attention in Southern California, but here in Kansas, we've been here a month and I'm invited to talk at City Hall. So, that said, we go there and there was a couple of other presenters there. We all got to introduce ourselves and then we got into like this speed dating kind of thing where we met new startup companies. And there were a couple of attorneys there. There were insurance people were there, bankers were there, people that would help with financing a new startup were on site, and I was there representing, digital marketing, WordPress, websites, e-commerce, that whole channel, right? So it was nice because it was just me to serve that whole channel. And so this question was coming up as people were thinking about launching their business and thinking about the timing of it and thinking about what would be needed. We started having conversations about holiday releases and, are you prepared for Black Friday? And it was interesting, by and large, it wasn't even on their radar. By and large, for people, pardon me, for people just involved in the startup process, their concern is, how do I launch? How do I even get people to know I'm here? How do I get my product to market? How do I make sure I have the right insurance? How do I make sure I had the right paperwork filled out? How did I do on meeting the state's needs for documentation? And so those things are the forefront of a lot of what they're thinking. But as they're getting ready to launch or as they're getting ready to approach a new audience, like one of the people I met, she is fairly successful in wedding photography, but she wants to open a coffee shop. So she has one area that's thriving. She has one vertical that's doing really well, and she wants to open a different vertical, completely different sets of target audiences. There might be some bleed over, there could be some overlap, but for the most part, it's two separate audiences. And so, she was thinking in terms of, how do I do this? How do I do that? How do I have the paperwork? How do I have my suppliers set? How do I have, supply chain issues and logistics? How do I have staffing? But she wasn't thinking in terms of timing and holiday releases or when to actually launch to optimize the effect. And it was interesting to me. So I wanted to put this together in a live for you folks at large and just kind of ask like, what does your Black Friday look like? Have you given it thought yet? I mean, here we are, it's October 24th, right? So about a month from now, Black Friday is going to happen. And so how prepared are you for you and your business to be ready for Black Friday? What are your goals? What are your revenue goals? What are your volume goals? If you sell product, like what volume of product are you looking to move or manufacture or produce? And then what steps are you taking to prepare for this Black Friday adventure? Now, I got exposed to aggressive Black Friday techniques kind of in the software industry. There's people that I work with in the space that take Black Friday as a big launch point, in their, yearly revenue. And I think back to when we worked with Galloping Grace Youth Ranch in New Mexico. Their big fundraiser every year was the pumpkin patch. So they would do the pumpkin patch every year, which is, over Thanksgiving and stuff like that. And that pumpkin patch would generate enough revenue for them to run most of the year. And so they could run most of the year with that one event. And so when we think in terms of what Black Friday has the potential to do for our business, we need to embrace all of the ideas, all of the avenues, all of the verticals for revenue. And we kind of really need to put some time and planning into what does Black Friday look like? What does it have the potential for? What do we have the appetite for? And how do we execute? And then you want to plan that well in advance and then launch on time and have a plan. I see a lot of companies, especially small companies, kind of scramble last minute and be like, "Oh, dang, that's a good idea. We should probably do something for Black Friday." The problem is it's Wednesday and they're having that thought before they cook a turkey the next day. You got to plan it in advance and you got to implement, you got to optimize. The other side of this is, and this is another group that I had met with last night. The other group that I had met with last night, they're more established than being a straight startup. They've been in business for a little while. They have a small following of customers. They've got about 70 customers, and they're in the food industry. And they were talking about, hey, we want to make it legitimate. We want to get our own location. We want to increase production, and they were having normal thoughts. And then from a digital marketing perspective, they're asking me some questions about like paid advertising, like pay-per-click on Facebook and Google AdWords and things like that. And then I just very specifically said, and I thought, this is part of what I do when I consult with businesses. I want to make sure you're not just asking me questions because you think you're supposed to. I want you to ask me the questions as your consultant because it's what you want. It leads to your goals. And so I looked at these folks and I said, well, do you want that? And they were like, what do you mean? And I said, well, you prepare these foods, you run a smoker, you make meats. If you're running the smoker 3 days a week now, and you're paying your bills, and you've got a core group of loyal customers, and for the most part, you're happy. Do you want to open the floodgates, have a website, employ social media, do Google AdWords, do Facebook ads, do all these things to generate traffic and flow and have to run the smoker 7 days a week? Is that what you want to do? Like, do you want to grow this into a big business, or do you like the idea of keeping it small? And it's important to ask those questions. I learned this the hard way when I was in New Mexico. There was a client that was making salsa, and she made wonderful, wonderful salsa, but she was a very, very small operation. She made very small batches, and she was happy. And then people in the organization that I was working with that help small businesses grow, they were telling her, oh, you keep winning these awards. You need to get bigger. You need to do this. You need to do that. We made her a website. We plugged in some e-commerce. We let people start placing orders online. And she came to me like 3-4 months later, and she was like, Kurt, I don't want this. It was a hobby. It was fun. It was a side hustle. And now it's becoming like a real job. And it's not enough for me to employ a team and walk away from it and count my money. But it's more than a side hustle. It's more than a hobby. And I'm not enjoying it anymore. And so it's important that, especially for me when I work with my clients, I need to make sure, like, what do you want? What are your goals? Where do you want to go? And what does that level of success look like to you in your day-to-day life? And if you want to go chase that, I'm your guy. Let's make that happen. But if you don't, let's pick something that matches your use case, matches your goals, and let's deliver at that level. And so with that, I just wanted to kind of wrap up the message today. The message was, are you prepared for Black Friday? If growth is on your mind, if launching is on your mind, if you're looking at your current spreadsheets and you're saying, man, I could use an injection of cash right now. How could I do that? If that's your thought, I encourage you to reach out to me. We'll do a consulting session. We'll figure out what your use case is, what your business model really is, what your deliverable would be. And then, to steal a phrase from David Valentine, I would say we need to figure out what your outrageous offer is. What is your outrageous offer that will catapult people to action and create that revenue that you're looking for? And make sure that it's revenue that you're willing to follow through on and execute with, at the end. Because when you collect the money, you just still got to do the work. My outrageous offer for the Power Sport Academy, for the whole month of October. The outrageous October was basically 75% off on accessing the Powersport Academy. I took a look at the product. I took a look at, my goals for revenue. And I said, if I give a core group of maybe 10 dealers 75% off. So I said, okay, it's a limited time sale. The first 10 people get 75% off. Boom, lock it in. That creates the revenue I'm looking for a short period of time. And it's a deliverable that I can make happen over the next year. And it meets all of my needs, right? And so when I consult with other companies, what I'm thinking of is, what's your business model? What's your use case? How do you generate your revenue? What's your outrageous offer that would spur action from your clients? And what's a result that you can deliver without regret? And then we execute and we see what the results are. So that was it. I see we got a couple people popping in. I don't see any comments in here yet. Let me just double check. I'll click on comments, make sure I'm not missing any, but I didn't see any comments in here yet. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and close this one out. Folks, it's always a pleasure to come to you. If you watch the replay, feel free to put comments in on the replay. I'll see them. I'll respond to you, and maybe we can connect and have a conversation. Have a great day.